Hello, welcome to News Centre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has made a slew of changes to his cabinet as he attempts to revive his political fortunes with just a year left in his term. Suella Braverman has been sacked as the Home Secretary after accusing the London police of favouring pro-Palestine protesters. Since taking the job, Braverman was embroiled in multiple controversies and embracing the hard-right ideology. Braverman had controversially called homelessness as a lifestyle choice. James Cleverly, who was serving as Foreign Secretary, is her replacement. But the bigger announcement was return of former Prime Minister David Cameron as the new Foreign Secretary. Cameron resigned as British Prime Minister after the Brexit vote, where Britain walked out of the European Union. Cameron's appointment is likely to please moderate Conservatives. In a statement, Cameron said, and I quote, "Though I may have disagreed with some individual decisions, it is clear to me that Rishi Sunak is a strong and capable Prime Minister who is showing exemplary leadership at a very difficult time," end of quote. Meanwhile, the free trade agreement talks between India and the UK have missed the Diwali deadline. Differences between the two nations continue on the rules of origin, work visas and intellectual property rights. The UK Department of Business and Trade earlier told CNBC-TV18 that both nations continue to work towards an ambitious trade deal that will really work for both countries. Let me now go across to Sanjay Suri, who is joining us from London. Sanjay, a big cabinet reshuffle, but what is the major signal that Rishi Sunak is trying to send out with this, especially with the return of David Cameron?
Well, the return of David Cameron is interesting perhaps at two levels. One, of course, we know that Cameron had supported the Remain camp over Brexit. We've also seen that the results of Brexit have not been quite as promising as was anticipated earlier. And this is hardly surprising. There is a lot of difficulty arising from Brexit over trade with the EU, particularly over attracting investment. Cameron had taken a different approach to Rishi Sunak. The attempt clearly seems to be to try and bring a moderate element into these policies and also to try and win over Conservative members and the wider number of voters over Brexit policies to try and get more inclusive up to the elections now coming up. But also there could be another element related to foreign policy. Cameron had taken a position on his visit to the Middle East when he was Prime Minister. He had described Gaza as the world's largest concentration camp. And of course, he had to withdraw some of those words because of pressure from the US and Israel. But he is seen as a somewhat moderate voice there as well. In this scenario, his appointment as Foreign Secretary amount of conciliation.
All right, we will... Right. Sanjay, we are losing your link and we will try and return to you in just a bit. But very important developments that you're pointing out, and it has several implications. We have also seen James Cleverly taking over as Secretary Department for Home Affairs. There are some more changes in the offing, and there is speculation in the UK press that Tony Blair could make a return. Let me go across to Jayant Dasgupta, former ambassador to the WTO. We'll also be joined by Lord Rami Ranger, patron of the Conservatives Friend of India group. Ambassador Dasgupta, a lot of changes taking place in the UK government. The FTA did not meet the Diwali deadline. Now that this cabinet reshuffle is taking place, do you think the FTA talks could slow down?
Well, I don't think because of the changes in the UK cabinet, the FTA talks will get affected, not in the least. But they can get delayed beyond the January deadline that has now been informally both sides are trying to achieve. Because beyond January, there would be the Indian budget session before the elections. And after that, it would be just election mode in India. So whatever has to be done by January. Now, having said that, the differences on about 24 out of the 26 chapters have been narrowed down and almost removed. And the only things which now remain to be sorted out are the tariff reduction schedule on whiskey the concessions to be given for electric vehicles exported from the UK to India. Sorry, dairy product access, and very importantly, rules of origin.
Right. So there are a few items left, including Scotch whisky, rules of origin, and also tariffs on electric vehicles. Let me get in Lord Rami Ranger, UK politician, joining us right now. Lord Rami Ranger, lots of fast-paced political developments taking place in the UK right now. The return of David Cameron. He was the Prime Minister till 2016, now coming in as Foreign Secretary. How does this help the Conservatives with their political fortunes ahead of the election in 2025?
It helps enormously. As you can understand, former Prime Minister was a very popular world leader. He has a special rapport with the world leaders. You know, he was a pro-European, and that will work very well by improving our relationship with the European community, and also to have David Cameron, who is a very, very popular, who won 2 elections in a row, that demonstrate a huge coup on the part of Rishi, because I never thought this was possible. But if anyone can do it, Rishi can do it. He has brought the former Prime Minister who once said, in my lifetime, you'll see an Indian Prime Minister. His prophecy came true. Not only his prophecy came true, he's now working for an Indian Prime Minister. So it's a huge, huge achievement on part of Rishi, because David Cameron is very popular with the grassroots. He has immense charisma. He has a special relationship with Prime Minister Modi. I met him when he came, and there was a very big rally by the Indian diaspora in Wembley, when we had nearly 60,000 Indian people cheering David, Lord Cameron. So Lord Cameron and Prime Minister Modi, it was one of the historical events. So therefore, and he spoke in Hindi, by the way, would you believe? So he has got such special relationship with India. He's very warm toward Indian people, and you can see that he was the first to appoint Indian to his cabinet. So therefore, it's a huge, huge success for Rishi, and it will strengthen the party with the grassroots. And I think
Lord Rami Ranger? Right. Let me also go across now to our other guests. We've also got Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador to WTO. Ambassador Dasgupta, the return of David Cameron, how do you think this impacts relations with India and the trade deal as well?
David Cameron has a lot of charisma, as Lord Ranger mentioned, and he has excellent relations with PM Modi. So I think the cause of the UK FTA will get advanced by his inclusion in the cabinet. The other point I wanted to mention is that Suella Braverman had very strong reservations against the demand of India to have a guaranteed work visa program built into the FTA for short-term visitors to the UK. And that is something which I think James Cleverly will possibly look at differently. And this is also one of the issues on which the FTA negotiations have been stuck in a way. So there could be progress by the removal of Suella Braverman as well.
Right. What are the major challenges that you see, Lord Ranger, as far as the FTA goes? Do you think Rishi Sunak's priority would be to seal this FTA as soon as possible?
Not a choice, it's a necessity. If Rishi has to win the next election, he has to give a shot in the arm of the economy. The only way he can give that boost to the economy is linking up with that of the Indian economy, which is surging ahead at probably 8.5% a year. And it's a huge economy, a huge market. And, you know, people in India have grown up with British product. You know, for example, you know, they won't be able to make enough Scotch whiskey. You know, we do need each other. We can give them a scale of production, as we saw during the COVID vaccination program. You know, India has got that massive scale of production, from pharmaceutical to IT, to you name it. So this is a partnership made in heaven because we share each other's values. We are both secular, democratic a country with the rule of law at the heart of our governance. So the Britain does not have to face watch his back doing business with India as they have to with China. I mean, you can imagine the big nuclear program was cancelled because of the security risk with China. Even the G5 was cancelled because of the security. So people are watching China like a hawk. So therefore, India is a natural ally. We fought in two great wars. We preserve the word freedom. British could not have done it alone if it wasn't for the valor, sacrifices of the Indian soldier. So therefore, we not only fought in the second two great wars, we also came back to rebuild Britain after the devastating war. And we worked very hard. As I said before, although we came from a poor country at that time, but we came with a rich heritage, rich civilization, rich philosophy, and rich culture. Not only we enrich ourselves in this country, but we also enrich the host country. We have punched well above our weight in this country. We have not committed crime.
Lord Rami Ranger, we've run out of time, but I'd like to thank you and Ambassador Dasgupta for joining us on the program. We're going to take a break, but up next, India's manufacturing sector is likely to maintain its growth momentum in Q2 of FY24, according to a FICCI manufacturing survey. A special discussion on the other side. Stay tuned.